Hello, hello, hello. Today I will be showcasing my first ever kind of sketchbook I finished that is actually like everything in it is something I would want to show off. In the past, I've done, sketchbooks when you're learning and stuff. Most of the things you draw are not things you'd want to show off, but this time I kind of have a full portfolio sort of sketchbook that pretty much every drawing in here I am at least somewhat proud of. So this took quite a while. I believe I started the sketchbook in, I want to say October of last year. So it's been a little over a year that I've kind of just been slowly getting good portfolio sketches in here. So I was very excited to finally have this done. It's adorned with stickers on the front, as you can see. And yeah, I'm very excited to get into it. So let's reveal the first page here. So the first one we have actually is my boyfriend. I did this still life kind of quick sketch of him. This took around, I would say 30 minutes, just pure ink. So I used a .5 felt tip pen in black, and then I used a black brush pen as well for a lot of the larger dark areas. So as you can see kind of in the hair and in the neck here, the big shadows, we kind of have the brush pen there, and it's very fun because you can get really interesting kind of strokes that you can't really get with a felt tip pen, and it's very useful for just blocking in large areas of black. If you try to do that with a felt tip pen, it kind of just looks scratchy and messy. I did this actually while he was playing the video game Guilty Gear, Guilty Gear Strive. If you've played that before, and yeah, it was very fun. He was staying still, so it was nice I could actually do it in 30 minutes because he was mostly staying in this pose while he was playing until he was pretty focused. Some kind of things I don't love about this one is the eye is a little large. Um, the nose is a little cartoonishly large as well. Definitely was still figuring out proportions, and the chin, in comparison is a little small. But I do like the expression. His eyes are up and focused, and his mouth is kind of drooping down a little bit with a little bit of a open a gape mouth, which is pretty fun to do. You can kind of see my construction lines here as well. You can kind of see I had just learned the Loomis method for drawing the head, so I wanted to try that out in practice. Uh, but this one, as with a lot of the portraits you'll see in here, the hair was some of my favorite stuff to do, just because texturing the hair is so much fun with just two values, black and white. Um, the sweater as well was very fun to draw. The using kind of the bold black to kind of push the outline of the sweater and really form that shape pretty good, and using kind of this sort of like almost like cartoony kind of like line of drawing the outline of the shadow and then hatching it in, which is some very simple cross hatching. Kind of gives this sort of industrial look to it that I really think makes it look pretty cool. And you'll see later more in the sketchbook as well. I use that technique quite a bit, and I really enjoyed this one. Try to keep it very quick, very messy, and yeah, this one I thought turned out pretty good. And because my ego is very large, I did sign this one as well, so you can see my signature there. So getting into the next one, we have, you might recognize this person, but this is a Pro Smash player. I don't actually play Smash. I don't play Super Smash Bros. Melee. I just kind of started getting into it by watching like YouTube videos on it. It's kind of, you'll see kind of my interests kind of go with wherever YouTube has decided to push my interest of that week. So this week I did a lot of sketches of Super Smash Bros. Players, and this first one was of Hungry Box, or H Box if you know of him. Texturing the beard on this one was so much fun. You can see kind of if I kind of go in here, you can sort of see all of the different hairs there and just really being pretty loose with that, and really finding the big hair clumps and clumps of light within the hair and clumps of dark within the hair. So you can see kind of here where the face kind of caves in, there's a lot less kind of white spots around here, whereas here there's quite a bit of brightness of light, especially here as well, where the chin is kind of curving outwards, and that really emphasizes the form of kind of the chin here, and this sort of like divot in right before the bottom lip as well. Really, really useful to use beard texture for that because you can really push and pull it forward. But that was one of my favorite things to draw about this. And as always, the hair was very fun to draw. This is my first time. I was like, ooh, how can I kind of make that same kind of philosophy with how I draw, maybe longer, more flowing hair, but with shorter hair. And again, it kind of just gets down to breaking up the hair values into two things where it's largely black and largely light, and then you can kind of work your way in and out, and you can push and pull those two areas. So you can see here, this part is pretty dark, this part is very light, this part is very dark, and I kind of just like streak in maybe a streak of texture there and streak in some texture here, and I add some light here and light here, and you kind of work your way into a nice organic kind of hair texture by doing so. Um, the face I thought turned out really good. I really like the eyes on this. I actually messed up. You can see kind of there's like a kind of an inward cut here on both of the eyes, but I actually think it kind of looked interesting. Some of the imperfections of it I think make it stand out quite a bit and give it a lot of some of that unique artist flair that I think you'll see in the sketchbook, especially with these ink drawings as well. You'll see kind of the imperfections are kind of what make it special a lot of times. So I would advise being messy with with your art a lot of times because it can really emphasize your style and emphasize kind of the process of it, which is a lot more important than kind of the destination in this regard. But with the kind of shading on the face, you can see I did sort of rough kind of contours where I would have the shading lines follow loosely the form of the face, and they would also have that just solid edge of shadow, and that was pretty nice because you can kind of get again that very industrial look. You can see this just looks very kind of industrial in how his expression is and looking up, and kind of the very very intense face, and I think it complements that very well. Um, the clothing here, you can see kind of just the folds I did in very thick black and kind of just doing some very simple cross hatching there. Wasn't too happy with how the clothes looked in this one, but overall I would say the face looked pretty good for this. So let's move on to the next one. This is another Pro Smash player. You're going to see quite a bit of these throughout the sketchbook, but this is Armada, a Swedish player. And this one I tried to kind of emphasize sort of the very calculated, cold kind of play style that he seemed to have. And I did that so with the contours being a little less messy and a little less haphazard, and these ones being much more following the flow. You can see as well I don't use the kind of defined shadow where I have that outline as much in this one as I did in the other one. You can see kind of here, there's not really one here, so for some of the softer shadows I decided to omit that altogether. One thing I didn't love about this is the nose didn't turn out super great, so I like try and hide the nose. The rest of the drawing looks pretty good if you hide that, but there's some imperfections there. But overall, I would say this one was pretty good. Kind of drawing the beard again on this one was good, and it wasn't as thick of a beard on Hungry Box, but this one was very fun to draw. And the hoodie was actually very very fun to draw as well. You see a lot of intricate folds. I had to make a lot of very bold decisions with regarding, oh, should this be solid black or should this be solid white, and kind of doing so can kind of make the rest of the form look pretty good and look kind of comic book style, sort of in that regard. But yeah, this one was very fun to draw. But I wouldn't say it was the best of these portraits, but still good enough to be in this portfolio. This next one is Mango. If you can kind of tell, if you've been in the melee community, you can kind of see. But this one, I loved the hair was my favorite, and you can tell here. You can see kind of this very 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 sharp shine of the hair as it's kind of pulling down. You can see I kind of here you have the roots. It's very black. Coming out of where it would come out of the head here, and then it kind of flows down. You can see this alternating pattern of shine, very shiny here where it's reflecting the most, and then a little bit here as well, and then kind of as it flows down we shine a little more until at the very end where it's again kind of curving again. We can see that shine. Same thing here, it's curving away from us, and we can see kind of that that edge that's pointing towards us. So the light's bouncing off of it and bouncing towards us again. So you can kind of see that shine, and it was very, very fun to do that. Um, Regarding the face, I kind of wanted to do more rigid cross hatching with this and see kind of how that would look. You can see I kind of did the blocking and the shadows, and then I did, instead of contours, I did um, much more geometric cross hatching. So you can see here those cross hatches kind of like perfectly are perpendicular to each other. Um, and then especially here around the eye, you can see it's definitely very, very close together. I think it kind of doesn't look super great around these eyes, where you can kind of see it gets a little clustered in there. And I think the eyes are a very, very important part of the face because it's as humans we tend to focus on the eyes first, and so if the eyes look wrong, your whole portrait is going to look kind of weird. This one, the eyes look a little little foggy, a little clustered. So I didn't too much like that, but the beard was very fun to draw on this one. Again, the hair was just so much fun to draw, and the clothes were pretty good as well. But mostly the hair, I would say. I really love drawing the hair on this one. Okay, this one was actually one of my more favorite ones, just because the expression, the different kind of face that this player had, Mewtwo King. And I kind of got a lot more free and messy as I got further away from the face because I wanted to kind of emphasize a sort of camera's focusing in a camera, how when a camera is taking a portrait photo, it will, at least modern cameras, if you have like a phone or anything, will focus on the face and will focus and really define those facial features. So you can see here as you get closer to the eyes, the hair is pretty defined, textured very, very, very correctly. But as you get further down into sort of the clothes, you can see I get very much more loose. I get much more scratchy and much more kind of free flowing with some of that shading. Especially down here, you can see like all of those are just sort of just like loops of ink and stuff and all of that. And I thought that would look very interesting. And I actually did really like how it turned out here. Uh, Sure, it was like very fun to shade. I think this is probably the only one of these where I actually had a lot more fun shading the the clothing of the person instead of the face and the much more human aspects of it. But yeah, this one I thought turned out pretty good. All right, this next one is not a portrait, but it's more of kind of a, I don't know, just call this a little more than a half body. But this is obviously another player. I wanted to do this one of kind of a still catch of them kind of celebrating, and I really wanted to try and push myself to see how far I could go with the shading texture with just a fine liner. Obviously, I used brush pen for some of the larger black areas, like in the hair. But a lot of the clothes here, this is really no brush pen here. This is all just fine liner. You can see I kind of tried that similar kind of scratchy style where it was very loose, but I was still kind of wanting to fill in areas and get kind of gradients in places, which is usually pretty hard to do with ink, right? Because ink is very one value, but as you kind of zoom out and zoom in, you can see the eye kind of tends to make its own gradients. Right here, you can see like very, very, very little black there, and then as you get further into the jacket, you can see there's much more black here, and so it kind of makes this sort of gradient. But with the messiness of it, I think it really, really emulates kind of the chaoticness of fabric when it's on someone who's moving and like raising their fist in the air in triumph. I think it looks pretty good. So I really liked this one. I thought the pose was very fun to do. It was very dynamic. Kind of just has a nice, strong line of action coming through and like raising fist in the air of celebratory. Kind of that. I love the expression on it too. Sort of just the open mouth and the nostrils kind of flaring here. Kind of just like pure shouting in triumph. I think it really liked this one. And yeah, I just want to show you some of the kind of texturing here. You'll see as you get further and further zoomed in. I'll wait for my camera to focus. But when you get more and more zoomed in, you can see these sort of these lines just get more and more messy. Like you can see, there's not really a lot of kind of form to any of these. There's not really a lot of reason to it, but you can see as you zoom out and as you get further and further and further away, you can see that kind of begins to take shape of like, oh, this is like maybe like a fold in a pocket, and this is, maybe the back of the pants, and this is the front of the pocket that's kind of facing, maybe that way, and it's facing less towards us, and this is a fold here that's coming, um, this pant leg is coming in here, and this fold is here. And so there's more dark on this back one because it's further away from our camera. You can really just get a lot more depth than you think you can when you're using these fine liners, because you can really just experiment with some of the messiness of it, and it's just so fun to do. So I really love doing this. Definitely is how I prefer to do my ink portraits now. Is whereas when you get closer to the face, you get more exact, more precise. But then when you get further away, you kind of get this very loose, messy style that I think works very well with stuff like clothes, and even like skin folds and hair, a little bit of texture on like skin and muscle definition as well. If you're correct with it, it can actually look pretty good too. You can kind of see I did a little bit on the arm here to kind of emphasize some of like those veins that are kind of like coming in and out of the arm, and when you're kind of raising it here, sort of the kind of shadow you get there. But moving on, we have my favorite Smash player. No, this is not a Smash player. This is Master Chief from Halo, obviously. And I've never actually played the Halo games, but my dad, apparently they made like a Netflix show or something. I don't know if it was any good, but he started watching it, and he was like, "Oh, you should draw Master Chief." He's like, "I know you draw." So I sat down one night and I wanted to see how I could draw that kind of metallic texture and sort of very sharp outlines, while still using just a brush pen. So this was pretty much all brush pen. The kind of initial, sketch I did pencil, but then I did the form in fine liner. But all of the texturing here, all of this sort of like metallic look, that's all brush pen. You can see I kind of went a little overboard on some of the details, um, and even these little things here. That's all brush pen as well. Had to be very light with it. Had to be very precise that I wasn't going too thick. But you can really get some good kind of like as it's going into the shadow. You can get some good kind of pushing more dark in there. You can get some more texture. But yeah, this one was super fun to do. I'll just kind of show you some of the very detailed parts of it. So I'll wait for my camera to focus there, and you can see kind of like just how just many bumps and ridges were here. It was really challenging kind of keeping everything in order and everything geometric as you kind of worked your way around this very armored body. It's a very difficult thing to do because with curves and stuff you can kind of mess up a little bit and it's not super noticeable, but with hard rough geometries like this, if your perspective is off a bit, it's pretty easy to tell. So you can definitely see some mistakes in here, but for the most part I tried to fix it using just some texture tricks. You kind of see here as this part is a little more dark and this part is a little more bright. You can see that the shine is kind of coming off this way, and really just emphasizing all the contours of the armor as well. That was very fun, and all the different kind of textures of the armor too. Like you can see here is kind of like a sort of like rubber, kind of like tubes here that are kind of maybe more bendy, whereas here this breastplate of the armor is very stiff, very rigid, very geometric. You can kind of see how that sort of comes in and caves in and is very convex, in that regard. But up here in the helmet, this one I think actually turned out a little odd, but it's very hard to do. Very reflective helmet. It's kind of should reflect the background and stuff. But I was like, how do I kind of show that without just being like a very simple, like kind of like simple sunglass style reflection? So I wanted to try and really push myself to kind of like showcase. Oh, maybe there's like some kind of background in the distance. It's just sort of like a building there, maybe like back of a truck here. Halo has these like floating sort of things in the sky. So maybe there's some floating ship coming by here, and here there's maybe some trees. So I really tried to get sort of that like kind of fisheye lens background imprinted onto the helmet. But I don't think it turned out super great. But I still liked it enough to keep it in here. So this one was super fun to do. Um, Super fun, very challenging. Obviously, this took me I think around like 7 hours to do in total, where I was just very tediously like doing a brush pen here, and then I was just kind of like brushing it there, and kind of filling it out, and it slowly started to take form. And I was very happy when this one came out. I sent it to my dad, and he liked it quite a bit, so I was very happy to see that. But moving on, we have one more. I think there's actually two more Smash players in here, but this one is specifically PPMD, or as his colloquial name is Dr. PP. But this one was, I think, one of my favorites, just because the expression was so very, just like very pleasing. You can see it's kind of like a grin, just like a very happy, content kind of grin. I think the eyes worked very well with this. I have kind of like the upper eyelid is all white, to really emphasize the details of the inner eye. Um, I think that one looked really good. I think there was also a good organization of messiness versus texture here. So you can see the shirt is very kind of that messy style. Some of the even the neck kind of gets some of that messiness in here. You can kind of see some of this texture here in the neck. You can see it kind of getting more and more messy as you kind of do that. But maybe when you get closer to the face, you can see that's a little more refined. Although I definitely let the black kind of get pretty intense here, to kind of showcase that there's a pretty thick divot in the face, kind of where the eye sockets are for the eyes. But yeah, the hair was also very fun to do for this one. You have like a very shiny top part of the head that has just like a black outline at the top that kind of seeps in with some of the texture, and then as you get further down here, it's very sharp contrast. Right, you can very easily tell, if you were shading this as just a sphere. You can see if you did this would kind of be where the shine outline is. So there's kind of like a second layer here that's fainter, but you can see more of the texture there, and I think it turned out pretty good. Okay, done with humans, at least for now. Now we get on to the animals. So this one was a kind of lion that I tried to do, following that same kind of like human portrait thing. This one turned out okay, but I think I definitely did a little too messy here. I tried to maybe make the face messier too, and I kind of learned, oh, you can't really get super messy when you get to the closer to the eyes, because the kind of as a human you expect to see kind of more refined things there, things to be a little more perfect. And so when things are off there, it looks kind of off. But I like the expression here. I liked the fur texturing here, really kind of layering, kind of playing in with like the tiger stripes, as you can see. Some of these kind of like very very jagged stripes here for the arm and shoulder I found good. But I think that I did this at like an airport, just like waiting to board my flight, waiting for like 20 or 30 minutes. This one was very fast, just in pure ink, and you can kind of see maybe some of the proportional mistakes there that I made. But overall, I think this one turned out pretty good. And I actually have to turn it. For this one, I actually did use the other side, but this one is also proportionally a little off. You can tell like, I think the ears are a little strange here. The face is a little large considering maybe this. I feel like this should maybe wrap around a little more. There should be more scarf here, maybe thicker scarf here. But overall, I think this one turned out all right. It was definitely a challenge with some of the shorter fur, kind of anthro characters you get with the sort of like face here. It's hard to texture that without making it too cluttered and too messy. So I think here I was trying to really get some very, very light texturing. You'll see later I succeeded a little better at this, but this is definitely a big learning one. Texturing some of the hood, making that seem a lot darker than the character inside was also I think turned out good, but overall this one was probably one of my least favorites in the sketchbook, but was glad I did. Learned quite a bit from it. Uh, this one I didn't finish, but I kind of actually liked the sort of unfinishedness of it. Kind of has this like industrial look to it, where you can kind of see sort of my process of how I go about texturing these things, where I start with these geometric shapes and then I kind of apply texture on them. I kind of map texture onto them. Um, this one was very fun. You can kind of see this just super long snout here of this character kind of looking down and then staring in at the camera of this gator. And so you can kind of see here the scales were so fun to draw on this, but very challenging because you know you have the whole body has like its very intricate folds, and intricate kind of like little cracks and nooks that I really had to understand kind of how this muscle laid on this body and how how the fat kind of laid on it as this neck kind of came here, and this is stretching the neck a little more maybe, whereas here, since it's turning its head this way, you have a lot more of the folds here, and so this is where you get kind of a lot more of the darkness condensed and you get those thicker bands kind of shooting into the neck here. But this one was very fun to draw. I liked drawing this. It was very like cylindrical character, but had like kind of each cylinder sort of bending. So this one's kind of going this way, this one's going this way, and this one's kind of going back, and this one's going forward again. Um, and the arms were very fun to draw as well. The tail would have been fun to draw. I kind of wish I would have finished that, but I wouldn't really have worked if this part was finished and then these weren't. You can tell I was going to maybe have it sit on some kind of rocks, some sort of like jagged rocky surface, but I never got around to doing that. But I really like the very long snout here. You can kind of see some of my construction lines there as well. See kind of the circles and the curves that I use there to kind of construct this character. But this one was very fun to do. My friend is actually a gator, so I I showed him this one and he really liked it. But he was like, "Oh, hey, you should maybe if you ever finish it, you color with these with my colors." So maybe I'll do that one day, but not yet at least. And this one is a two-part one, but these are some wolves that I drew. I was actually on a flight when I drew these. Um, it's cool. The person next to me was just looking very intensely at the drawing I was doing, but very fun to draw. This one you can see kind of this snarl. You just really get some really good raw emotion in sort of the canine face here. You can see if you kind of zoom in here, you can see some of those folds. And I really wanted to emphasize kind of the fur texture here and the messiness of the fur. And so using kind of the chaotic lines, you can see here I kind of block in the shadows and I kind of go over it with fur texture here. You can see I just love the snarl on this mouth here, and the teeth just sticking out as the upper lips kind of raise, and see these bottom teeth kind of jagged and pointing out, and the gums very much shining. Very fun. This was just so fun to do. This one was probably my favorite one, just because I love this side view, and I think this turned out really good. You can see with the fur, using the fur as texture, you can really emphasize the kind of muscles of the face here, of this canine face. So you can see here, I don't actually draw any of those muscles because it's all covered in fur, but you can use fur in this texture as a really great way to sort of push and pull these muscles back and forth, and kind of showcase how those can really be emphasized with just texture, right? This is all the same texture. It's all fur. It's all this like kind of short fur. This part is a little longer fur, but for the most part, this front part of the face is all short fur, and you can see it gets more dense as you get closer to those dark areas. So like here in the eye sockets, right, very dark, but you can still see some light poking out, just like how fur would have, some light strands hitting those fur follicles, still even deep in that eye socket. And then here where the kind of mouth sort of begins to kind of lip up in that snarl, and then the rest of the mouth muscles here are kind of stretched as the mouth is being opened. You can kind of see that here too. So you can see this like cut off here. This is where this band of muscle kind of starts, and this is where this flap of skin kind of maybe starts to stretch. So you can really see that pretty well, and I really liked how this one turned out. You can kind of see here the nose as well, kind of has this like shininess to it. I always love drawing noses. You can have some really fun, very sharp highlights on noses that look pretty good. But the teeth as well are very jagged and gnarly. The tongue was very fun to draw here too. You can see like very sharp shadow here from the mouth, from the inner maw there, and you can see kind of the tongue kind of flop out here. And I really did try to get some like nice texture on that tongue as well, to kind of show that it's a very muscly tongue, and it's kind of like laying there and has these folds and these creases that you can kind of see there as well. The gums as well, very fun to draw, and kind of seeing those back teeth pointing out past that. Just this whole expression I was just a huge fan of. And the eyes as well. I think the eyes looked really good on this one. I love how wolves have these sort of like, uh, I don't really know how else to say, they have these like kind of goth eyes, where the eyeliner, it looks like they're wearing like very thick eyeliner around their eyes, and they have these like very dark eyes. So this is kind of a point where I sort of broke the rules a little bit and used some local color instead of value to emphasize that. But I think if I would have just stuck to just value, it wouldn't have looked as good. So I think this turned out very good, and I very much like this. This is like one of my favorite sort of ink drawings. Was this whole page, I thought turned out really good. This one is a different wolf drawing. You can kind of see it here. A little more like kind of shocked expression, maybe a little more of like a maybe a shocked, maybe a little fearful expression here. I really wanted to emphasize kind of how all the muscles in the face sort of like kind of contract and extend here, as you can see. If I kind of zoom in here, these eye muscles here, this kind of bulges outwards, and you can see that that's kind of stretched here more than normal. You can see this face muscle, this is kind of drooping down actually, because it's so open. And you can kind of see like the bottom lip of that is open, right? If it was in a snarl, this would be raised up, but it's not, so it's drooping down a lot more. And the maw itself was very fun to draw. You can kind of see here the tongue, all the teeth. Is always just so fun to draw teeth, just because they're very cylindrical, and you can kind of have fun with how you're orienting them towards the viewer or away from the viewer, and kind of like being kind of loose with how you orient them in relation to each other. You can see like they're not very perfectly aligned, they're not even perfectly spaced, and I think having that imperfection is very important, because you can kind of show that this is a real animal. It's not some geometric render or something where the teeth are equally spaced and have absolutely zero randomness to it. It really kind of drives home that it's real. You can see here as well some of the gums, some of the teeth. The gums really go down and expose sort of the root of the tooth, and really more of the tooth than some of the other ones do. Whereas this one's right. A lot of the tooth is obscured by the gums here. So the mouth was super fun to draw on this one. The eye was super fun to draw as well, as kind of seeing that eye socket. Wolves have their eyes are very covered. When you're comparing it to human eyes, like human eyes bulge out of the eye socket a lot more and don't have as thick of an eyelid as maybe some animals do. You can see here, like, right, this is like a very thick sort of eyelid on the bottom and a very thick eyelid on the top that kind of covers it, and so you kind of just see this little sliver where you can view the eye from. But yeah, drawing all these folds on the top of the head as well was just so much fun. I really loved drawing wolves, and you'll kind of see how I like drawing animals and kind of anthros more in this sketchbook as I kind of continue on. But before we do that, I'll have to show you one more Smash player. I promise it's the last one. But this one is of a player called Zane. And this one was probably the most, conventionally attractive player that you'll see in it. But I really loved the hair on this one, right? You can see I kind of just had this nice flow with the hair. You can just kind of see it just kind of curls and goes up and above and around. Very nice. Looks just so good. Um, and the glasses as well was super fun to draw. Kind of these frames here. I kind of see I messed it up a little bit, but it still looks pretty good. The eyes I liked. The beard was very fun to do. I did this one in brush pen actually, so you can kind of see my strokes here. Gives it kind of a thicker, more bold look, I would say, without kind of the scratchiness of the individual hairs of a beard would normally give. You can see again, I did that messiness for the shirt, and also I tried it for the neck. I don't know if I really loved how that one turned out. I think maybe this one a little less, just because you can kind of see it gets kind of clumped in with the rest of the shirt and stuff. So I think I actually would have maybe changed that if I would have done this over, but for the most part, I really liked how this one turned out, and just the hair was just so fun to draw. Just all the strokes of the flowing of the hair, especially this part. You can kind of just see that curl come up. Is just so much fun to draw. This one I did for Pride of 2024. So this one I wanted to kind of have like a very industrial, different kind of look for an anthro, where it would be much more sort of something you'd see out of one of those um, like linoleum stamps that you'd stamp down, kind of that style, but ink. So this one was very fun to do. I messed up the proportion on this ear, but you can kind of see that the texturing, this like longer fur tufts, as well as the shorter fur tufts, and kind of this like happy sort of grin here, looks pretty good. And I really kind of liked how that turned out. It's very industrial look, very rough and raw look to it, but I really liked how this one turned out. And I think the colors contrast pretty good with sort of the black and white of the character, of sort of the pride flag being wrapped around and having some of that black still here. It kind of looks like this is a sort of unfinished colorist in a comic panel, kind of just like forgot to finish the job here, but really liked how this one turned out. The texture on the antlers was very fun to do. You can kind of see I kind of have these like flowing lines that I actually kind of learned from. If you've read the manga Beastars, Louis' character, his antlers have these sort of spaced out lines that kind of flow and give these like grieves into the antlers. That turns out pretty good. I actually rather like that one quite a bit. This one is a tiger, kind of happiness, exclaiming out into the world. Got a little halo on it. Wanted to make it a little angel. This one was the first one that I think really has color on the character as well. So I just got some new brush pens. I got like a blue and an orange. I wanted to see if I could make a cool tiger with it. I think the blue is actually a little too light. I should have tested the brushes out first. The orange is pretty dark, and I think it kind of messes with some of the values of it. But overall, I think it was still fine. I think the tiger itself was very fun to draw, like this very happy expression with this grin. And sort of the face and the eyes, like very exclaiming out in joy, and the nose, the nostrils kind of flaring there, was super fun to draw. Very much like this one. It was just very fun to do. I think I did this also while waiting for a flight, so I got some funny looks from people when I was drawing it. But it was very fun to draw. I love drawing kitties. They're always a good time. Um, this one I would say is probably my favorite. This one where I really started to try and experiment with some of these brushes. It kind of looks like a like a kind of furry version of Goku, but if he was also from Pandora, like in James Cameron's Avatar, if you've ever seen that, I think that kind of is what it looks like. But the hair was very fun to do. That's kind of purple hair. The robe was just so fun to texture with some of that orange. You can kind of just see sort of the messiness I get into it here, and kind of just how some of these highlights are shown here. I think it looks pretty good. And the kind of underlying body here with some of the darks and kind of seeing the muscles on that character, and the eye being yellow as well, I thought was kind of a nice touch. You can't really tell too much, but yeah, I think this one turned out pretty good. But there's definitely a lot better. You can tell I kind of improved as the sketchbook goes on and on and on because we're starting to get into some of the ones I'm a lot more proud of, I would say. But this one was still very fun to do. And this one is yeah is this we're just we're gonna skip this one. Yeah, let's skip this one. We don't really need to see that one. This one is actually a coworker of mine that I drew. Um, I was wanting to practice, doing portraits, but with black and then also monochrome. So one value. This one I had some blues that I really wanted to try, and you can kind of see it was really a challenge. Her texturing her hair was so much fun. You can kind of see she has this very frizzy kind of um, hair, and it was just so fun to kind of draw. And she had black hair as well, so it was very dark. But you can kind of see those highlights there, and it was just very fun to draw. It turned out really good. And just really kind of pushing some parts of the face back with some of the value and bringing out and really making the eyes shine as well. I think the pupils I did a pretty good job on for this one. But yeah, really loved how this one turned out. And I think this is the last. I think this is the last human you'll see in the sketchbook. So I thought it ended on a pretty great one. So this one I was very happy with. It turned out pretty good. So let's move on. This is where we're kind of starting getting into some of my favorites. So this one, I loved how this one turned out. So this one was really where I started hitting my stride with some of the monochrome colors that I got with some of the blues, and I think the blues really complement this sort of expression as well. This character is kind of cupping their face and looking very sad and looking very somber and looking down. Have kind of a their eyebrows are raised, but it's a very beautiful expression too. You can see there's a lot of beauty in the composition of this one. Really dramatic lighting with some of this bright light, white light coming from this direction, really shining on this part of the character, and some of the edge rim lighting here, and really outlining these knuckles. I really just love kind of showing this one off, but some of the texture here on the inside of the ear. The hair as well has that nice shine. This side of the face, right, is pretty much all in dark. And I think that the face looked really good on this one. I was very proud and very happy with how that turned out. And kind of using those darks of the line weight to kind of push forms back. So this one you can see, this is kind of the back of the face. That one's pretty much dark. This inner ear is in pretty much all darkness, and then this inner ear as well is pretty dark, but this side of the face is just getting blasted with light. You can kind of see, and it kind of like goes up the character and kind of creeps onto the nose as well. And you just really love the dramatic lighting that you can see in this one of this character kind of cupping their face. And the tail in the background too, you can kind of see some of that light as well, hitting this back of the tail and hitting the front of the tail. Not too much the inside, even if it's facing it, just because this kind of front is covering it. But the arms as well, I loved how these ones turned out. You can kind of see these muscle definitions here, very muscular shoulder, very toned and fit kind of body look, and this elbow here as well, it kind of pops out as kind of the definition of this sort of forearm here is kind of pushed like this, and this bicep as well, kind of bulging out. I just really loved how this one turned out. I could talk about it for quite a while, but this one was very fun. Really, where I started hitting my stride and started becoming a lot more confident with color, especially monochrome color. And so you can see I started being bold and trying to experiment with other color combinations, some of which did not turn out, but this one very much turned out, and this one was like probably the first one I did where I was like, whoa. This sketchbook could really be something cool, and my art ability has gotten pretty good at this point. So yeah, I loved how this one turned out, and yeah. Okay, this this is my favorite one in the sketchbook. I want the camera to focus so you can see it correctly, but this is by far my favorite one in this whole sketchbook. This tiger uh, I drew with markers. This is all alcoholic markers, a little bit of brush pen for the black, but it's mostly just alcoholic markers that I got from Michael's. Nothing super fancy, but this one kind of I was very bold with. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. I put down a layer. You can see kind of a layer of sort of this very pale peach color as well, and so I kind of blocked a lot of the color in there. I really left where those really shiny highlights would be in pure white, as well as the eyes. And then I kind of worked in with some browns to get some more definition on where the white parts of the tiger would be. Um, and then from there, I kind of added the orange parts. I actually didn't use orange, I used yellow. So you can see this part is actually all yellow. This is a very, very, very deep yellow that I used here on this top part of the nose and up here. Kind of seeing the lighter parts of the yellow, but still not in full light like this is. Um, just to really emphasize that this is still in light, whereas these darker oranges here are kind of the more in shadow parts of the tiger. Super fun to do. The ears and the stripes are actually a pale gray, was what I used for this like bottommost sort of first pass, and then I did another pass with purple, and then I did another pass with just black ink. So you can see kind of as you go in, you can see the purple here, and the black ink really just like emphasizes these stripes, and it's just so fun to do. This one was the stripes were my favorite part of drawing this. Really when I started to see this whole piece kind of come together, because this is very much a sort of trust the process piece where I really was not looking good until the very end. So if you're ever kind of working through a piece and you don't really like how it's looking, and think it's going to just be a bust and a fault, I'd recommend just pushing a little further and seeing where you can go with it, because you'd be surprised more often than not how you can kind of rescue a piece that might not be turning out, and it can actually turn out better than you ever could have thought. So I love the way this turned out. I love the sharp shadows here on the side of the face as well. I think the white and the orange of the tiger just look very good. And yeah, this is my my favorite piece in the sketchbook. This is my second favorite piece of the sketchbook. So you can see after that success, I really wanted to try and be bold and really go for it with some of the other colors. So this one um, was a cougar character that I kind of drew inspired from Top Gun, if you've seen that movie, with sort of the aviator shades look. Um, Kind of looking at the viewer. This is again done. All the color stuff is done with alcoholic markers, but this one was super fun to draw. The hair flowing here was always so much fun. This is very luscious blonde hair kind of flowing in the wind as this character is looking directly at you. The sunglasses I really wanted to try, especially with color. I'd never actually been able to successfully draw sunglasses with color, and these are like very reflective materials with color. So I tried to do, matching the background here with some darks and then some purples and then some black at the very bottom, but really trying to match the background. And I think it turned out really good, right? I think this actually looks, pretty convincing that this character is looking back out at some sort of ocean or some sort of kind of like blue sea, and the kind of coloring on the fur as well. You can see I kind of did a white here, and then I did a similar sort of yellow base coat, and then I think it was a brown or like a wine red that I actually used to kind of shade this part, and that kind of like leaks onto the shirt. That sort of red look that you can see. So it's the collar of the shirt, it kind of bumps up and then it kind of flows in onto the rest of the shirt. The shirt itself was green. I thought it looked pretty good. Kind of gave it this like military look that you can see here. And you see the folds of the shirt are also this deep green. that I thought turned out really good. So I really liked how this one turned out. Just this flowing hair, just looks really nice, and kind of this um, red coming off here and streaking in with the hair. I just thought looked fantastic. So this one, uh, two of my favorite ones in this whole sketchbook are kind of back to back. So you're kind of getting spoiled here with some of this stuff. This one I did actually at a bar while drinking a margarita with my friends. I was at a bar and I think I saw a sign that was um, this like Blue Moon. If you're familiar with that beer, this is not a product placement. I just saw a Blue Moon neon sign, and I wanted to draw kind of a character that was in that sort of like blue moon kind of sun in the pack, but was in this kind of like you don't know really know if it's dystopian or if it's kind of like roaring 20s kind of vibe. So I did the character has kind of this roaring 20s sort of like very luscious scarf on with this very very shiny good looking corset, and they're kind of like looking off at the side, um, in this sort of pretty cool pose, kind of looking outwards. But in the background, you can kind of see there's sort of some decay and some kind of decrepitness in the back, so you don't really know kind of what the setting takes place in. It was very, I think I was like watching some Fallout videos before we went to the bars, so I think that's probably where this was inspired from. But regardless, I really liked how it turned out. I especially just loved texturing this corset and this scarf. They were very fun, but the character itself is fairly flat texturing. It was just a brown and kind of a tan there. So I think it turned out pretty good. Liked how this one ended up. So there's nothing on this one. This one I didn't actually finish, but this one was going to be sort of like a kind of like a guy dressed in sort of this toga, kind of laying down on this couch. Didn't finish this one. Again, I didn't love how it was turning out. I got these new sort of brush pens, and I wanted to see how the colors work together. And I think they're a little better, maybe in more of a loose style and less of like a toony style. They didn't really like work super good with this. But maybe I'll come back and revisit this one. But I think this one was, kind of a miss, but it was good. Yeah, I was kind of experimenting with some new tools, new colors, and I wanted kind of the hair and the toga to kind of match that red that you kind of see. But overall, this one kind of didn't love how this one turned out. This one was not unfinished. I just kind of liked the way it looked like this, with sort of this like character that's being just blasted by this bright white light, and you see these very sharp, um, kind of sort of shadows here on this side. So you can see the muscle definition here as well. Just this like ripped six pack hyena looking at you, and then kind of grinning, kind of as he's being just like shown the spotlight. Kind of this like sort of if you've seen the movie Magic Mike, kind of that kind of vibe where he's on this runway and he's just kind of like giving you that look with his sort of chiseled self. I'm just gonna move on to the next one before I embarrass myself more. Uh, this one was, I think, the only graphite piece in this, and the light I have currently is kind of adding some glare, so you can't really see it, but is kind of this sort of wolf headshot thing that I originally wasn't planning on actually finishing. It was more so some like kind of warm up, but I was like, well, I did it in the sketchbook, so I should render it, and it ended up looking actually pretty good. A lot of people always ask me when I get these very deep, very darks in graphite if I'm using charcoal. This is not charcoal. This is all graphite. It's just it takes a lot of patience. So this one took, I'd say, probably I want to say like 6 total hours, just for all the rendering. Just really starting with a lot of loose grays and then working my way up from maybe 1B or 2B as I think what I started with, and working my way up to 8B where you get some of the softer lead or softer graphite, so you can really just like really get those darks in, like right here, and kind of right there as well, the eye as well. You get some really nice graphite there, really nice darks in the eye, the nose as well, and then the mouth. But yeah, this one was very fun. The fur was very luscious and very thick. I like drawing like very thick fur. It's very fun to kind of have that uh, with graphite as well, because you can get some very soft gradients where you can really get the emphasize the value changes of the fur, and really emphasize that the character is, you know, pretty 3D and pretty uh, responding to the light around them. You can see here even you can get the sharp kind of value changes with the ears, whereas the very gradual value changes on this side of the ear and maybe parts of the face. In this parts of the fur, you get much softer value changes, but combined with those very deep dark value changes, it just looks phenomenal. And I really liked how this one turned out. So you got to be very patient. You got to be very patient with graphite, but if you do it, it will pay off. You can make some really nice looking stuff. That you can get some really nice darks and some really good soft changes in it. So uh, people like to say graphite isn't really as good as charcoal and stuff, but I do think you can really get some nice grays and some nice rendered artwork just by using graphite. So this one was pretty good, and I wanted to keep it in here. And the last one. We have the last one here. This was the last one I wanted to do. I wanted to end on kind of a very kind of cool, badass note. So this one, if you've seen the uh, movie Elysium, it's kind of based on that. This sort of like dystopian kind of like fighter who has this gas mask and this tank on the back with a tube going into his vest, and this like kind of thick sort of band here where it kind of looks like maybe an astronaut helmet could attach to, kind of just like looking back at the viewer very epically, and very intensely. So this one, I loved how this one turned out. You can see really wanted the blues to contrast with the oranges of the character and the browns of the character, and I think that worked out pretty good. It was very difficult trying to get the color to work with such metallic surfaces, and I think in some parts it failed in that, because you can see this doesn't really look super shiny. It looks a little more, maybe grayed out. But I do really love the gas mask on the character that I drew. You can kind of see, if I can get it to focus here, some of those details, and really you really get to see a lot of those um, kind of little brush pen details that I like to put. I just think it looks really good, especially just the black. Just really emphasizes, some of the curves and the texture, that metallic roughness and the sharp edges on very geometric surfaces like the gas mask. I think just looks really good. Overall, yeah, I really liked how this one turned out, and I thought it was a very good one to end my sketchbook on. So yeah, this is kind of the first sort of sketchbook I've done where I'm very proud of it. I want this to focus. Can this please? There we go. This is kind of the first sketchbook I've done where I'm very proud of every kind of drawing in here that I've seen, and really kind of cool showcasing kind of how much better at art I've gotten and how much further I still can go with it. So I think it would be actually really cool to kind of compare this sketchbook with the first ever one I filled out, which I still do have buried in my closet somewhere. But I think it'd be very fun to do that, kind of compare and see how much better I am now than from when I first started. But yeah, that has been my 2024 sketchbook tour. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you haven't, keep drawing.